Greetings. We are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we strive through our YouTube channel and our video presentations to bring you the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We have a policy. Honesty is our best policy. Today, we felt that it is time to do a comparison between what is written in the everyday Bible, i.e. the Americanized, modernized Bible versions translated into English, about the Exodus, and compare it with what is recorded, carved in stone in ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, according to an expert. The book of Exodus, the ancient or the old book of Exodus, was written and part of a compilation by ancient old scribes and monks around 800 BCE in Urhai or Odessa, who spoke and wrote or recorded in the very ancient or very old Assyrian Aramaic or Ketav Asherit or Ketav Hotep. This ancient language they used was called Lishana Atika or Lishana Cypraea. So this native-born Mesopotamian Victor Alexander has translated it faithfully into English. So we are going to have a look at that, as we said, and we're going to compare it with the what was supposed to be recorded, carved in stone at Egypt, according to a man named Dr.Ben, who was highly qualified in his day. This is the ancient book of Exodus, or Liberation. Exodus should have really been translated as liberation, because that is what the word means in the original Hebrew Aramaic, or Aramaic Hebrew language. Map Kana, Exodus, implies that the children of Israel were ousted, or expelled, kicked out, when in fact they were liberated by the Lord to become a nation that would serve his purpose, and they did serve his purpose. At that time, Victor N. Alexander states he came back to translate the book of Exodus. He'd stopped translating it after he completed chapter 1, but then he saw the need to return to it. He had begun translating the book of Isaiah because he wished to translate more about the coming of the Messiah. However, events in the US justice system at that time made him realize the importance of the laws that were given to Moses in the Ten Commandments. So we're going to take a look at that. Okay, here is the book of Exodus, right, 17. Okay. So basically, sum it up. I won't dwell on it too long. The patriarch Abraham went into Egypt, and things happened there according to the scriptures, and he leaves with all these treasures, etc. He actually does it a couple of times in the Bible, and then it leads up to where, after the supposed king or pharaoh Joseph, or that important Joseph in the Bible, right, died, there was another pharaoh or king that didn't recognize or acknowledge Joseph, right, his predecessor. So seeing that Egypt, or ancient Kemet, was overpopulated, they decided to put them to work to supposedly build their pyramids, their statues, etc. So they were really harsh on them. They ran out of mortar or something, so they gave them straw and all this sort of stuff, which was made it even worse. And then they were really mean to them, all that sort of stuff, according to this book of Exodus, right? possibly what happened here, what is written here, right? The same sort of thing. Okay, so the one of the people during that conflict, that hard times, was born, but the Pharaoh had declared that all Hebrew males under 2 years old be drowned in the River Nile, probably to cut down the population. So this was ordered by the king or the Pharaoh. So these Egyptians went out and did that, but one Hebrew or Israelite woman decided to hide her child. She loved her child, so she put him in a boat of reeds and these bulrushes, and he floated down the Nile, but he was watched by his sister Miriam. The king's daughter came to bathe in the Nile, and she saw this basket, opened it up, and there's this baby in there. She just fell instantly in love, head over heels. So she took this baby back to the Egyptian courts and raised her as his own son, which brings up some questions, right? Okay, if your daughter brings home this strange baby, aren't you going to question it? Okay, aren't you going to go, where'd you get that? You know, and look at it, think, well, this don't look like an Egyptian one, etc., etc. Okay, so he grows up in the Egyptian court, raised by this woman under the king, okay, in the Egyptian courts, and he learns all the Egyptian, how to write Egyptian, etc., all their customs, traditions, religion, etc., right? And he goes out looking at over these people that are being ruled over by these Egyptians and treated badly. And one day he sees a fellow Egyptian beating one of these supposed Hebrews or Israelites, right? So he looks left and right, and then he kills this Egyptian, okay, which breaks one of the 42 laws of Ma'at, right? He kills him and he buries him, hoping that no one will see him. But apparently 2 Hebrews saw him, and then whispered about him, and he ends up getting found out. So supposedly he gets kicked out of Egypt, the old Charlton Heston 10 Commandments movie, and he wanders around the desert for 40 years or whatever, and comes back, okay, because he was on a mountain, and supposedly a bush spoke to him, okay. Whereas in this ancient book of Exodus, the original, Moses wasn't talked to by a bush, by God through a burning bush. He was talked to from God sitting on a flaming, flying disc, or standing upon it, okay. And he couldn't look at God because God's too holy, pure, whatever. He couldn't see his true form. So God tells him he can't, no man can do that and hope to live. He'll die, right? So his hair goes white. So he goes back to the people, and they say, oh, he's truly seen God. They're not saying he's actually looked upon God, right? If those scriptures say, God warned me, you can't, or you or no man can look upon God and hope to live, right? You'll die. Okay. So what they're saying in their Eastern mindset, or the expression, is that he was in the presence of God. That's what they mean by seen. Okay. It's like having, in the Hebrew or the Aramaic, heart, right? Written in English, heart, when it's actually translated as mind. Okay. So he gets called to go to Egypt and rescue the people because they've been crying out to him, over the 400 years or whatever, save us, save us. So he goes back, and he's a stutterer and all that sort of stuff. Apparently his brother Aaron gets to speak for him. But he goes back there and he says, let my people go, let my people go. You know how it goes. And after all this resistance, this king, this pharaoh, ends up getting these 10 plagues, right? Gnats and flies and animals dying, and then eventually the firstborn of Egypt dies and all this sort of stuff. That's the story according to your modern Americanized Bible versions translated into English. So we're going to have a look here, if we can. Okay, here that's basically it in a nutshell. But here it has some strange, not seen in your English Bible versions, scriptures, right? And Moses said to Jesus, Jesus? Jesus the Messiah? Select yourself some men and go out and do battle with Amalek tomorrow, and behold, I will stand at the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand. Okay, and Jesus did as Moses instructed him and went out to do battle with Amalek, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. So this people of the Amalekites, apparently they got wiped out altogether. No remnants, according to the scriptures later on. Okay, and his hands got tired, so they took a stone and consecrated it under him, and he sat on it. And Jesus broke Amalek and his people by the edge of the sword. Okay. And so forth. So, what the heck is Jesus doing in there? Okay, here we go. 17:9. Just highlight that for you. And Moses said to Jesus, select yourself some men. This footnote here states Aramaic, literal Aramaic, Eoshua or Isho, transliterated as Joshua in English language Bibles. The spelling in Aramaic for Jesus and Joshua is identical. And further on, I think it's in Nahum or Micah, he actually makes a statement that his name was Jesus Bar Nun. We'll do another video on that later. Okay. So 17:15, and Moses built an altar and called its name the Lord Tested. Footnote, literal Aramaic name, Nesi, because Ma means Lord, Yah, Lord God. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's what happens with Moses, right? He goes in and he delivers the people. They gather up all this stuff, some Egyptians, gold and stuff like that, and they go out into the desert, and they moan and groan, but yeah, they end up surviving out there because God's with them. They become the chosen people. Moses goes up on a mountain, comes back with 10 tablets. They're mucking around with the golden calf, all that sort of stuff. So he gets frustrated and smashes them, and people suffer because they made a molten calf. They were bored out of the gold, and they danced around, all that sort of stuff. I think it's called it's got an Egyptian name. Yeah, this calf. It's an Egyptian image, and they were worshipping that, dancing around, all that sort of stuff, right? So the 10 Commandments are made anew. Okay, it goes further on. Have a look in the English Bible. They're refreshed. Okay, and then these people are given these 613 Levitical laws, etc. Okay, it goes on like that. Read it for yourself. Okay, but in here it'll probably be completely different. Okay, and goes on about that, about Moses and the people in the desert. Exodus 19, on the third month after the liberation of the children of Israel from Egypt, on that same day they came to the desert of Sin, and they took up from the Rephidim and came to the desert of Sinai, and they camped there in the desert, and there Israel rested before the mountain. That's that holy mountain of God. Okay. And Moses climbed up toward God, and God called him from the mountain, saying, this is what you shall say to the house of Jacob, or Israel, because his name was changed. And the Israelites are the descendants of Jacob or Israel, i.e. the Israelites, as it shows here, the children of Israel. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians. He's talking about the plagues, etc. As I took you up like on the wings of the eagle and brought you to me. Now if you truly listen to my voice and uphold my covenant, or his promise and agreement to them, you shall be more beloved to me than all the nations of the earth. Okay, so they were the chosen. They are more beloved than anybody else. Okay, that's what it states right there. You shall be more beloved to me than all the nations of the earth, because this earth is mine, and you shall be for me a kingdom and high priest and a holy nation. These are the explanations you shall give to the house of Israel. That's the people, right? The Israelites, the children of Israel. Okay. And then Moses came down and called on the elders. And the Lord said to Moses, behold, I come to you in a swirl of clouds, because the people have listened to what I spoke to you, and they will also believe in you to the end of the universe. And Moses showed the nations concerns before the Lord, and so forth. Okay. And the Lord commanded Moses, go down and bring Aaron, your brother, with you, and the high priest. Just move me. He goes down there, blows the horn to get the attention of these people. Go down and bring Aaron, your brother, with you. We'll probably bring up. And the high priest and the people must not wander off and climb toward the Lord, so they may not be killed. Yeah, because if they try to scale that mountain, he'll wipe them out apparently. Okay, so here's Exodus 20 with the 10 Commandments. Okay, and God confirmed the entire matter. It is I, your Lord, that brought you up from the land of Egypt, from the state of slavery. So we're going to quickly look at the footnote here. Yeah, he states, literal Aramaic idiomatic expression, I am. So here's the I am. Okay. In the ancient Aramaic, Ahia, Ashur, Ahia, which when you translate it, it should read as I, Ashur, I. Or if you want to get technical, in the correct English, I am Asher. Okay, Asher was a title of God by the Assyrians. Okay. This is the people that spoke it, wrote it, recorded it. Okay, they're saying that's where it all come from, Asher, and those people that sat on the throne, Ashurbanipal, etc. They took that title, as the Egyptians did of Ra. Okay, not saying that they are a god. It's just they were chosen as regents to sit on their throne, so they took that title. Okay, and these are all these 10 Commandments. Honor your father and mother. Do not kill. Do not fornicate. Do not steal, etc. And it goes on, right? Okay, so that's what it says, basically, in the ancient Aramaic, and you would have your translation in the English, okay, which varies. It's a variation. It's a copy of a copy of a copy. It's not of the original manuscripts like these. Okay. So now we're going to compare it with what this man, Dr.Ben, says, right? He's qualified, highly qualified and recognized, right? As we see, we're going to compare it. Okay. So we got up to this point where he's asked, who's this statue of, right? So I'll play it for you. And you'll see a vast difference.
Who is this up here? Where? On the next level.
That's her husband, Ahmose's second.
That's Ahmose.
You see, her father, you got to know a little history about her. How great she was.
And it decided to play up for some reason. Okay, we may pause it there. Okay, here we go.
When the Hyskos were here, that's the first foreign conquerors of Egypt.
They came up to them?
They came from Asia, around the Oxus River. They came and destroyed the 13th dynasty and started the 14th. By the time of the 17th dynasty, people here, kings from here, a man by the name of Ahmose I, got mad and organized the forces against the Hyskos
To drive them out.
to drive them out. He got killed on the battlefield, and his son, Thutmose I, took over,
Continue to fight.
continued the struggle. He got killed on the battlefield. His daughter, who took after him, took over above the second because he was too young. She took over the battle and pursued the Hyskos.
That daughter would be Hatshepsut.
Hatshepsut. Makari Hatshepsut.
She was a rough lady.
She was a strong woman. She brought women in the government in certain positions, but she did not allow women to interfere with the priesthood, to go into the priesthood. They developed their own system called the priestess, but they were not allowed to participate with the men. Yes. A Nubian queen, plus the fact, Gail, she started what is today called women liberation. Oh yeah, brother. Today we call women's liberation movement. She had done it thousands of years before.
Amen.
There are 62 tombs here that are known of. Perhaps the best known of which is the all but vacant tomb of Tutankhamun. Best known because the boy pharaoh's tomb was discovered intact in the early 1900s.
So there's the information there by Dr.Ben. Okay, he's not a Christian apologist or such. Okay, so this person out there that said there was no Exodus is actually incorrect. He's correct about everything else, but there was an Exodus of sorts. Okay, what Dr.Ben said there is that the Hyskos, foreign kings, came in. They invaded Egypt. They ruled for a while, okay, until King Ahmose first said Egypt for Egyptians, and strove to boot them out. Right, so that's what they call the Exodus. So these people left en masse, right, and went to northern Egypt, which is apparently southern Egypt, and they built a kingdom called Avaris, or known as Zion. So it was the first Sion, right? And they ruled there and thrived. So this King Ahmose wanted them out of Egypt altogether because that's their territory, right? So he goes and he invades it, tries to attack it, get them out, but dies in the attempt. So his son, who replaced him, Thutmose I, decided to do the same in revenge, but apparently he was killed. Okay, so it leaves the wife, Thutmose I's wife, or maybe the grandmother, I think it'd be the wife he's saying here, of Thutmose I, with a young child, perhaps about 10 years old. So he doesn't know anything about the art of fighting or the art of war. So she claims that she is of the gods, not born, or the myth, whatever, right? Not born of, human parents, and she sits on the throne as Queen King. Okay, and she apparently rules, and then she trains up her son, who then goes and attacks Avaris, or that Sion, defeats them, drives them out, and drives them to the Sea of Reeds. Okay, in the book, the Bible, etc., it's erroneously called the Red Sea, where the actual location on a map, on ancient maps, is it's called Sea of Reeds. So in front of them is sea, to the left of them, to the right of them is sea, and behind them is these Egyptians. They got nowhere to run. So they capture them and they drown them according to the wall reliefs, what's carved in stone, or behead them, whatever, right? Okay, so that's supposedly, according to this Dr.Ben, the true story, the true account of an Exodus, which actually happened, an Exodus of sort, because an Exodus is basically an expulsion of a mass of people out of a certain country or regional area, right? That's basically what it boils down to. Okay, so if this proves true, okay, comes straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, it is 100% verified, established fact, then it proves, to a point, as in the protocols of the Elders of Zion, someone has given these Gentiles a false religion or a false account. They've lied to them, right? Okay. Why I was referring to this person who said these remarks is because he claimed it has been suggested, or he said it was suggested, according to Rabbi David Roll, that the Jews state the Exodus according to their texts, didn't actually happen. Okay, so I acknowledge him for that. I couldn't remember, right? Recollection of it. I did personal research before, but yeah, sometimes I forget. Sometimes you don't have that recall, whatever, right? Okay, it's not excuse. It's actually fact, right? Okay, but yeah, when you reminded me of that, it reminded me of that. I recalled it, right? Recalled it. Okay, so yeah, he was saying that the Exodus didn't happen. That's their version, right? So as we said earlier, we'd examine it deeply and bring you the real truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in that matter. It may offend some or many. Well, the truth is a sharp two-edged sword and cuts deep to the very marrow, according to the scriptures, right? So we make no apologies for the truth. If this proves true, comes straight from the horse's mouth, so as to speak, and is 100% verified, proven, established fact, then it proves to a point that someone's lied to us, right? Told us a chuckload of lies. Okay, so according to Dr.Ben, here is the real history. It's the real history. According to the ancient Egyptians who recorded it in a stone. Native Assyrian, I was speaking to on through YouTube comments, once told me that if we knew the true history of the Assyrians, which has been swept under the carpet, kept under the carpet, right? And in the Nestorian churches, etc., those people got hassled for centuries, but they got flack for centuries because of that, over that, right? If the history of the, if you knew the history of the real history of the ancient Assyrians, and where the scriptures really came from, that we would drop our beliefs, our belief system, right? Okay, so again, I stress there was an exodus and expulsion, a driving out of peoples, but not as is written in the Bible. Okay, there's the facts there, that there was an exodus and expulsion, so you can't deny that there wasn't one, right? Okay, no matter how you try, because it's all there, recorded, okay, verified. The Hittites, a race, these are Asiatics from Asia Minor, once invaded ancient Egypt or Kemet, were taken captive, became prisoner of war. It's on the war reliefs in this documentary. But were driven out, and a fight between them and the Egyptians occurred, as seen on those wall reliefs, those carvings, right? They depict what happened. Dr.Ben states that Abraham came into Egypt. He gained much knowledge from it, perhaps adopting a lot of their religions and customs, data, etc. Moses was born in Egypt, raised by an Egyptian woman, daughter of the Pharaoh or the king at that time. Being in the Egyptian court, educated in Egyptian court, he would have learned all the Egyptian language, traditions, customs, etc. Again, being educated in the Egyptian court. It was found that Moses, this is what I came across, it was found that Moses had been taught Kitav Hotep by his grandfather or father before the Hebrew Israelites came out of Egypt, supposedly came out of Egypt. It's funny how, it's really uncanny, how Hotep, H-O-T-E-B, sounds very much like Hotep, H-O-T-E-P, H-O-T-E-P, and is an Egyptian word used by Shaka Ahmose on his videos, throughout his videos. It's like some sort of greeting, maybe it's like peace or something like that, or some sort of acknowledgement. Shaka Ahmose, who was named after that king, King Ahmose the First. Uncannily, the word Hotep is very close to Hotep. Keep in mind, the Bible doesn't name the Pharaoh or king of that Exodus at the time, or the Exodus of the time, yet Tacitus in the Book of Historians, Book 5, AD 70, I think it's paragraph 4, page 168, states King Bogchoris, B-O-G-C-H-O-R-I-S, was the king at the time of the expulsion. And he goes on about how the Jews, someone has translated it into English, right? And it's also on LibriVox. Okay. I have the Reader's Digest version of that, translated by a certain person into English. It's exactly the same as on LibriVox recording, so they'll probably read it from there. Okay, that the Jews were in Egypt, they were swine herders. In other words, they had a lot of swine, pigs, right? And according to Tacitus, the oracles or the seers of Egypt approached the king and says, "Hey, those pigs are infected with leprosy," okay, or whatever they called it in those days. if you don't get those people out of here, your people are going to get infected, our people are going to get infected and all die. So get them out of here. So apparently he did. There's another that these people, like Hyskos, rode their chariots up and down all night making noise, and he couldn't stand it. This king couldn't stand it, so he kicked them out. All this sort of stuff, right? So that's what Tacitus is saying. So that's why the Jews don't eat pork or swine, right? And so forth, according to that book of Tacitus. So he, as an orator, a known orator, historian, is wrong. Okay, if the facts are here, okay, he is incorrect. But don't forget, as Shaka Ahmose said, Romans, like Tacitus, you have to. Oh, I think it was Dr. Ali Muhammad actually, who said you have to be careful because they're very political, right? Meaning the Romans like to always look like the good guys, right? Don't ever write down that we are the bad guys, that we did this, we did that. Yeah, or else you'll get it, right? You'll be in trouble, boy. Okay, so yeah, make us look like the good guys, the heroes of the day. Okay. Yeah, keep in mind the Bible doesn't name that pharaoh. Okay, people say, oh, it's Rameses II and all this. Right, there's actually a video on YouTube which reveals that timeline, chronological timeline he discovered. This guy's an expert. It's probably 200 years too far forward. That the Hyskos did come and invade and destroy a certain temple and so forth. Yeah, the timeline is 200 years too far forward. Okay, and it should be like this other pharaoh that he was talking about. Well, here it's talking about King Ahmose, Thutmose I, and his wife. It starts with H. Okay, you have to have a look at that video there. Hut put or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and again, keep in mind via this video about that chronological timetable being incorrect, being up by 200 years, too far ahead. If this is all true, then what does that mean for all those who believe the Exodus story in the Bible, or according to the Bible, when it isn't fact or true? That would mean that Exodus is fictitious, untrue in detail, yet true in regard to an expulsion or exodus, okay, in the sense of the word, actually happening, but not as we've been told on sold. Okay? For the record by the ancient Egyptian exists of a mass expulsion or exodus that did take place. Okay? It, as detailed, was, as we learned through our personal research, the Hyskos, not the Hebrews, Jews or Israelites, that invaded. Okay, these Asiatics from Asia Minor, they're not Chinese. Okay. But you have a look at those wall reliefs, you have a look at some of those carvings of these Egyptian kings or pharaohs, and they look like they've got Negro lips or African lips, but maybe Chinese eyes, Chinese features. Yeah, it's uncanny. You have to have a look at it yourself. Okay, so they invaded. The Hyskos invaded, not the Hebrews, Jews or Israelites. They invaded Egypt, then ruled her kingdom for, let's say, 400 years or more. And then King Ahmose I decided Egypt for Egyptians, couldn't tolerate it anymore, and rose up and drove the Hyskos, foreign kings, out. They built a kingdom in Avaris, northern Egypt, which is southern Egypt. It's kind of weird. It's upside down, like the Nile flows down to the north. Okay. In northern Egypt, which is southern, supposedly, or vice versa. So he tried to attack and destroy them, but died in the attempt. So his son, Thutmose I, in revenge tried to do the same, but also died. So the queen had a surviving son, but he was only 10 or so, and not skilled in the arts of war or fighting. Okay. So she became queen of Egypt. There's a myth behind that, and as she told everyone, and taught him all And as a grown man, he then gathered his army and attacked Avaris with Zion, drove out all the Hyskos, chasing them to the Red Sea, correctly the Sea of Reeds. Yeah, it's erroneously called the Sea of Reeds. If you have a look at a proper map, you'll see that it's the Sea of Reeds, ancient map, where they had no means of escape, so he had many drowned and killed. So the story told us in the Bible could appear, or would appear false. Either it is the Bible account, and it's true, and it's 120% true or fact. B, Dr. Ben is lying. The Egyptians were lying, as they like to depict victory, not defeat, on their walls to their people. Okay. Or Dr. Ben is telling you the real truth, and also the ancient Egyptians, okay, as the ancient Egyptians were, and the biblical scribes or writers were liars, or they were lying. So we at the Ministry of the Real Truth acknowledge these statements made by a certain person coming at us, and apologise if incorrect in certain areas, as we either didn't know or didn't recollect what we had discovered prior to that through our own personal research. Yeah, we'll go for the second one there, because that's basically what it was. So that's why we remembered and stumbled upon this video by accident, to verify that there was an exodus, a mass expulsion of people, not the Jews or the Israelites or the Hebrews. There was no war with the Hebrews according to Dr. Ben's findings. Okay, but yeah, again, there was an exodus, an expulsion of a mass of people called Hyskos, who were from Asia Minor, therefore Asiatics. Okay, they ruled it for 400 years or so. So that's what we're standing on. It's put us on shaky ground now with our belief system, but we're still going to strive and look into it, okay, because you have to establish the facts. So we're going to find someone else. We've already found 3 people. Problem is, one has spent time with Dr. Ben, so that one could influence the other. I'm not too sure about Dr. John Henry Clark, whether that third person spent time with that person, but they learnt all a lot from Dr. Ben, being in his presence, right? So he could have influenced them, rubbed off, right? That's according to establishing the facts by Dr. Ali Muhammad, his friend, a radical Muslim. Okay, sit on the couch together, talk live. Yeah, so we'd have to find, let's say, a non-ancient Egypt or Kemetic person influenced. Okay, you have to get some historian or renowned or known trusted historian, perhaps not so much a theologian, but yeah, experts, right, archaeologists, etc., like that, to verify that. Other people, there are other videos of other people that went to Egypt, the same place, and came up or realized the same historical record, the facts, right? Okay, so that's us, the Ministry of the Real Truth. Hopefully you like this video, and if you do, subscribe to our channel below, add your comments, don't forget to set that bell so you don't miss out on any more exciting videos as we bring you the real truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. No hype, fluff or BS added, okay? No extra sugar or preservatives or toxins. Okay, so if you like that, then give us a like, and then go tell all your friends, hey, oh my gosh, this is the truth. Okay, what the hell we got here, right? Yeah, in this book, it's telling us this, but when it really is historically recorded in stone, carved in stone from people of that time, completely different, you know? Okay.